Hello, welcome back to another episode here on Dangerous African Confessions HD. This is the continuation episode of our brother who helped his pastor to steal destinies from their church members. He is a former Deliverance minister who is finally breaking his silence, exposing the shocking truth behind what really happens after some pastors lay their hands on you. Without wasting much time, let us go and listen to the full confession. And please don't forget to subscribe to our backup channel, which is on the screen and also in the description box. Thank you, and let us go and listen to our brother. I wonder why God didn't strike us down. Why lightning didn't fall from heaven to burn the whole ministry to ashes. But I realized that darkness has patience. It doesn't always strike in public. Eats from the inside, slowly, until nothing remains but a polished shell. I became a tomb. I felt nothing, no love, no fire, no Holy Spirit, only cold calculations, only the echo of chants from the forest. Sometimes I see their faces at night, standing at the edge of my bed, their eyes hollow, their mouth whispering curses I can't understand. I knew those curses will find me one day, but for now, I carry the burden of every soul I help destroy, every tear I turn into a sacrifice, every photo I pen under the moonlight. And that is a weight no man of God's suit can ever hide. I used to think I was untouchable. Every time I walk onto that altar, the crowd rose like a flood. Their shouts, their money, their desperate eyes, it made me feel like a small god among men. But you know, behind every scream, behind every offering, there was a prize already waiting for me in the spirit. It started slowly. I began to hear voices in my sleep. Whispers in languages I didn't understand. Faces will float above me at night, their eyes bleeding, their mouth twisted into endless cries. At first, I blamed it on stress. I prayed, fasted, anointed my room, but the shadows kept coming. That was when my body started to fail me. My skin grew pale, my eyes sunken. No matter what I ate or drank, I felt hollow. I lost weight so quickly my own mother wouldn't have recognized me. One night, I was driving home from a late night prayer meeting. On my way home, I felt a cold breeze sweep through the car. Even though all the windows were up, my chest tightened as if invisible hands were crushing my ribs. Before I knew it, a truck's headlight blinded me. There was no time to swerve. The impact sounded like thunder tearing through my bones. When I opened my eyes, I was on the road, blood pouring from my head and chest. I couldn't move. I could only hear my own breath. Strangers rushed toward me, their shouts echoing far away. My vision blurred, and the world slipped into blackness. I woke up in the hospital days later, my body covered in bandages and tubes. Pain filled every corner of me, but it was nothing compared to what happened next. That night, something happened to me. It was as though my spirit was leaving my body. I found myself standing at the edge of a massive pit, flames twisting below me like a living ocean of fire. It was worse than rotten flesh, worse than anything I could ever describe. I heard screams, endless screams, echoing from the depths, souls clawing, melting, reforming only to burn again. Then I saw them, the women from the counseling room, the barren mothers, the businessmen, the widows. They surrounded me, their faces pale and hollow, their mouths open, but no words came out. Only a wind of agony that slammed against my spirit. Behind them, I saw my pastor, Papa Fire. He stood tall, his robe no longer white but soaked in blood. His hands stretched towards me, and he said, "You thought you were free?" He laughed. His voice was like a broken glass. He said, "You belong here. You sealed your fate the moment you touched the first photo." I tried to run, but my legs melted into the fiery ground. I screamed, reaching out for help, but there was this black hand that was grabbing me, pulling me down towards the pit. I felt my flesh peel away. I felt my bones crack open like dry wood. I felt my soul split into pieces, each one set aflame. Then, in the final moment before I disappeared into the pit, I heard a voice. Gentle, I jolted awake, my whole body drenched in sweat despite the bandages. Machines beeping around me. My heart was beating so fast it felt like it might explode. The doctors rushed in. They injected me with something that made the world fade again. But I knew then that that was not just a dream. That was a vision, a warning, a glimpse of my eternal sentence. From that day, every time I closed my eyes, I saw the pit. I heard their screams. I felt the heat crawl under my skin. I realized I was no longer a servant of God. I had become a servant of that altar, and that altar was now demanding my soul as payment. Lying on that hospital bed, broken and alone, I finally understood that no amount of tithes or praise or fake deliverance could wash away what I had done. My fate had already been written in ashes and blood. After that vision on my hospital bed, I thought escaping would be simple. I imagined I could just walk away, confess my sins, and receive prayers. But I didn't know how deep the roots had grown. When I was discharged, I went back to my small apartment. No one from the ministry came to see me, not even my senior pastor. In my room, I could hear whispers in the room, voices telling me to stay quiet, to remember the covenant. I gathered courage one evening and visited a small prayer group in another town. They didn't know me well, so I thought they might help me. When I entered their hall, they welcomed me with smiles. The leader, an old woman with fire in her eyes, began to pray for me. As soon as she laid hands on me, I felt my body stiffen. I fell to the floor, shaking violently. My mouth opened, but instead of words, a deep rolling voice erupted, a voice I had never heard before. I heard myself say things I didn't understand. Curses, ancient chants, names of spirits I had vowed to serve. When I came back to myself, they looked at me as if I was a ghost. The leader pointed at me and said, "You are deeply changed. You don't need prayers. You need God's mercy, His raw mercy, and nothing else but His mercy." I left that place that night terrified. You see, when I returned home, I saw them waiting for me. They stood in every corner of my room, eyes glowing like burning coal. I tried to pray, but each word tasted like ashes in my mouth. I heard the screams of the women, the curses of the men. Sometimes I would wake up to find strange cuts on my arms, as if invisible blades had visited me during the night. My bed sheets would be soaked in sweat. I realized then that I was not just battling guilt, I was battling a covenant I had sealed with blood and fire. The truth is, I thought I could repent easily, that a few days of fasting and prayer would fix it, but I had traded my soul piece by piece over years. Each photo, each ritual, each chant in the forest. Freedom was no longer a prayer point. It had become a distant dream. Some nights, I would look in the mirror and not recognize myself. My eyes looked hollow. My skin seemed to sag and wrinkle overnight. In those moments, I understood what true bondage meant. It is not chains on your wrist. It is chains on your spirit. Chains so deep that even your own prayer bounces back like echoes in an empty tomb. The system was too strong, the spirit too angry, the covenant too deep. I had thought I was a hunter, but I was just another sacrifice waiting for my own day on the altar. The truth is, after so many failed attempts to escape, I started to accept that my death was near. Each night, I lay on my bed, feeling my soul detached from my body, little by little. I felt like a man buried alive, suffocating under the weight of my own choices. I lost all appetite. My skin turned gray. My eyes sank deep into my skull. I could smell death on my own breath. One morning, as I sat shaking in my small room, it had been a very long time since I watched TV, but that day, I decided to watch it. There was this one counselor who was speaking, and he said something that I knew immediately it was for me. He said, "There is still time and there is still someone who can deliver you." I didn't know why I felt that way, but my spirit hadn't heard anything that gentle in years. Immediately after that, a name dropped into my mind, an old pastor I knew from my Bible school days. We had once prayed together for hours. He had always refused to join big ministries or seek fame. People called him the stubborn old prophet. I hadn't spoken to him in years. He lived far outside the city, where he pastored a small congregation. I decided that day that I would give him a visit. I used the last money I had and paid a taxi to take me there. As I walked towards the small church, my knees buckled. I felt the spirit screaming in my ears, cursing me, clawing at my back. I nearly collapsed twice. Finally, I reached the small wooden door and knocked. When he opened the door, he looked at me for a long time. Tears filled his eyes. He asked me, "My son, what have they done to you?" Even before I could answer, I fell to the ground. and began vomiting again. He knelt beside me and began to pray, his voice shaking but firm. His hands pressed against my head, my shoulder, and my chest. Each word he spoke felt like fire and ice at the same time. The spirit inside me began to scream through my mouth. Hours passed. I lost all sense of time. The old prophet prayed without stopping. At some point, I felt something snapped inside me, like a heavy iron chain breaking from my spine. Then, everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on a mat inside his small prayer room. The prophet was sitting nearby reading his Bible. When he saw me awake, he smiled gently and said, "You have been rescued from the mouth of the lion, but the battle is not over." He told me, "You must rebuild your altar with God. You must learn to walk again in the Spirit, step by step." That night, he gave me a small bowl of warm water to drink. He read scriptures over me, line by line. Each verse felt like medicine. He made me sleep in his prayer room for weeks. Every morning, he anointed me with oil. Every night, he sat by me and prayed until I drifted into peaceful sleep. In that small compound, I felt a faint light returning to me. I wasn't fully free yet. The covenant had left deep scars. I still woke up sweating, sometimes hearing distant chants. But each day, I felt a small piece of my soul come back to life. The prophet taught me how to kneel in silence, how to wait on God's whisper rather than force his hand. I learned to confess without expecting applause. I learned that true power was not in making people fall at the altar, but in staying on your knees when no one is watching. For the first time in my life, I felt the touch of real deliverance. Not the screaming, not the forced session I used to do, but a quiet, patient cleansing that started from within. I had come to the edge of hell, and somehow, by mercy alone, I was pulled back. The month I spent with the old prophet felt like a lifetime. Each morning, I rose from the mat and sat in silence. The old prophet would sit beside me, reading Psalms out loud. He told me that true healing is not instant. It is like planting a seed in dry, cracked soil. You must water it daily, shield it from scorching sun, remove weeds patiently. I saw visions of the women and men we had destroyed. Their faces came in my dreams, not to torment me anymore, but to remind me of what I carried. Their pain had become my burden. I realized then that deliverance is not only about casting out spirits. It is also about rebuilding the ruined altar inside you brick by brick. Even after leaving the prophet's house, I carried spiritual scars everywhere I went. When I walk through market, I sometimes hear the echoes of the chants in the forest. When I pass churches, I hear worship songs that used to hide my crimes. When I look into the mirror, I see a man who was once dead but is now crawling towards life. I learned to fast without posting about it. I learned to pray without hoping someone would record and call me anointed. I learned to sit alone and listen to the silence of God, a silence that heals more deeply than 1,000 loud crusades. I tried to apologize to some of the victims. Some were already gone, lost to sickness, mental breakdowns, suicide. Some rejected me outright, spitting curses in my face. I accepted it, and I understood them. The truth is, I no longer wear expensive suits or stand on big stages. I no longer hold fancy microphones or ride in convoys. I walk barefoot sometimes, feeling the earth under my feet. A reminder that I am dust and nothing more than that. I live simply now, growing vegetables behind a small rented place. Some nights I still fight. Some nights I wake up sweating, hearing distant laughter from the forest, but I have learned that healing is a journey, not a moment. Sometimes I wonder if God will ever fully wash me clean. I wonder if there is a place in his house for a man who sold souls and drank blood in the spirit. But the old prophet always told me, grace is not for the pure, but grace is for the filthy who know they cannot clean themselves. I hold on to that dearly. So I say, to anyone still running after powerful hands and mysterious oil, I beg you, not every hand that touches you is holy. Not every tongue that shouts fire is speaking from God. Some altars are soaked in tears, blood, and destiny stolen in the night. Before you run to the next prophetic encounter, I beg you, ask God for discernment. Ask him to reveal the source of that power. I was a man who stood behind the veil. I saw the chants. I saw the photos, the sacrifices. I saw destinies burn to ashes in the forest. If God can pull me back from the edge of the pit, He can save you too. But you must seek Him in truth, not in glitter of stage miracles. I am still learning. I am still rebuilding. My body carries scars, but my spirit carries scars only God and I can understand. And those scars, they are now my testimony. May my pain become your warning. May my scars become your signpost back to the real altar. The altar not built on manipulation or fear, but built on love and mercy. My brothers and sisters, this is more than entertainment. This is a cry from the depth of a broken spirit, from a man who walked through hell and came back just to tell you the truth. If this story shook you, it was meant to. Before you trust anyone to lay hands on you, remember, your soul is priceless. Your destiny is not for sale. Please, we want to hear your thoughts. Comment below and let us know how this story touched you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Dangerous African Confessions HD for more shocking and life-changing stories like this. Until next time, stay discerning, stay safe, and may your altar be always pure.